Okay, let's unpack this. Vietnamese stand-up comedy. But maybe forget the usual punchlines for just a second,
Yeah.
because the real story here, I think, is in the journeys of the comedians themselves. We're going to dive deep into this Viet Cetera interview with Phuong Nam and Nhi Vuong from Sai Gon Teu.
Right.
And just the contrast in where they started from is pretty fascinating, actually. You've
Hmm.
got Phuong Nam describing his inner life like a constant internal war, like a philosophical wrestling match going on.
Uh,
And then his childhood sounds like, well, pure mischief. Apparently, she got a kick out of teasing animals.
yeah, that definitely stood out. Talk about two very different roads leading to the same comedy stage.
Totally.
And what's really striking is how these seemingly opposite starting points, one all internal and thinking, the other, like you said, playful and external, both ended up cultivating this comedic sense.
Yeah.
Phuong Nam and Nhi Vuong, they offer us more than just laughs, right? It's really distinct insights into how they create and also what the stand-up scene in Vietnam is actually like.
Exactly. That Viet Cetera interview is pretty rich. It touches on like everything, their motivations, their careers, even their views on love.
Yeah.
And for you listening, this isn't just, a look inside comedy. Think of it more like a master class in finding your own way.
Good point.
We're kind of exploring how these two people figured out their strengths, navigated the bumps in the road, and decided what success actually means to them.
Which are lessons that are honestly relevant no matter what field you're in, right?
Yeah.
Or what challenges you're facing.
Absolutely. So let's really get into it. The genesis of their humor, where did it start?
Well, Phuong Nam used that phrase, constant wars,
Mhm.
inside him, which is a fascinating way to put it. Maybe that's what fuels his observational stuff,
Could be.
dissecting everyday things with that sharp kind of critical eye. He even had a term for Volbon, this like ongoing internal processing.
Like having way too many browser tabs open in your head.
Exactly. Always looking at different angles, possibilities, which is, fertile ground for comedy, I guess.
Right, that constant mental back and forth seems like a real engine for him. And then, like you said, there's Nhi.
Yeah.
Her Two of Cups, as she put it, suggests something much more harmonious inside.
Definitely a contrast.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is humor something you're just born with, or is it something you build? Where did that spark come from for them?
Well, their backgrounds give us some interesting angles on that whole nature versus nurture thing. Nhi talks about basically having to create her own fun in a small rural place.
Right, the teasing animals and teacher stories.
Yeah, it shows this like amazing resourcefulness, doesn't it? This knack for finding humor right where she was, especially when maybe there wasn't much else going on entertainment-wise.
Yeah, almost like comedy as a survival skill.
Kind of, and then you flip to Phuong Nam.
Completely different. Growing up in a house where his parents were, as he said, the life of the party.
Right, he describes this constant playful vibe, his parents just being naturally funny people.
Sounds like humor was just like in the air he breathed, something he picked up really young.
But interestingly, it's not just about what you're born into. Phuong Nam also talks about consciously developing it.
Ah, okay.
He mentions actively observing things, working on his storytelling, and then later getting formal training at Sai Gon Teu, learning the theory behind comedy.
So it's a mix then, maybe a natural inclination, but then you got to work at it, focus, learn the craft.
Seems that way, yeah. It suggests that even if you have a knack for it, turning it into, a real skill takes deliberate effort.
So reflecting on this, maybe it's worth thinking about your own background, your experiences. How did they shape your skills, your outlook? Were they encouraged, or did you have to kind of carve out your own path?
Good question for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to how they experience feedback and what success looks like for them. Again, really interesting differences.
Yeah.
Phuong Nam really values being seen as friendly, approachable, like a friend. He actually said he's uncomfortable being, like, idolized.
Oh, interesting. So he wants connection, not distance.
Exactly. That genuine connection, being on the same level as the audience, he prefers that.
Okay, that makes sense. And then Nhi. The interview used the word dungam for her brave.
Yes, brave. Specifically about her material. Because she tackles topics that are often, considered taboo.
Like bodily functions, societal expectations for women, stuff people don't always talk about openly.
Right. And you have to think about the cultural context she's working in. As a female comedian doing that kind of material, she's bumping up against some pretty ingrained norms and biases.
Yeah, that discomfort some people might feel hearing a woman talk frankly about those things. The interview kind of hinted at audience reactions, didn't it? Suggesting she's really pushing boundaries.
She absolutely is. It's like she's deliberately challenging these unspoken rules.
And that definitely takes guts, standing up there and addressing those deep-seated expectations head on.
No question.
Yeah.
So maybe think about this. In your own world, how important is that genuine connection? And what are the norms, spoken or unspoken, that you might bump up against or even challenge in your own field?
Now, what about how they see each other? That was revealing, too. There's clearly a lot of mutual respect there.
Definitely. Phuong Nam really praised Ni's resilience.
Yeah, he talked about her strength, moving to Saigon alone, dealing with negative online stuff, and how she just seemed to take it in stride.
It's pretty remarkable, isn't it? Especially early in a career, to handle that kind of negativity. It says a lot about her determination.
For sure. And Ni, flipping it around, she sees Phuong Nam as the golden boy of stand-up comedy, praising his constant comedic energy. She said he brings joy almost effortlessly, even off stage, like he's just got this endless supply.
It sounds like it. What's great here is how they genuinely see and value totally different strengths in each other.
Yeah.
He sees her toughness. She sees his consistent positive energy. It's a really good reminder to appreciate the unique things that people around us bring to the table.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Digging into the nature of humor itself, Phuong Nam totally challenges that idea that comedians are just, gifted.
The myth of innate talent.
Exactly. He uses this great analogy, comparing humor to working out at the gym.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Anyone can develop it, he says, if they practice, if they're intentional about it. It's not some magic quality only a few people have.
That's actually a really empowering way to think about it. It kind of democratizes humor, makes it feel like a skill you can build with effort.
Yeah.
And he connects that to doing, that charm or affinity. He argues it comes from self-confidence, from being genuinely authentic on stage.
So being real, being comfortable with yourself, that's key to connecting and getting laughs.
That's what he suggests, yeah. That genuine presence is what pulls the audience in.
Okay, but even the most energetic, authentic people hit slumps, right? Creatively speaking.
Oh, absolutely.
And Phuong Nam talked about that too. Experiencing these yearly creative dips. And needing to actively go out and find new experiences, he mentioned, learning basic IT. Just to refill his comedic tank, his ammunition.
Who knew IT could be comedy fuel? But it highlights that cycle in creative work, doesn't it?
Totally.
Periods of high output, then times you need to step back, recharge, find new input. Creative energy isn't bottomless. You got to nurture it.
And speaking of unexpected turns, Ni's path into full-time comedy wasn't exactly planned either. It came after she suddenly lost her job during COVID.
Right, a major life change that unexpectedly opened up this different door.
What could have been a huge setback became this pivot that apparently felt pretty natural for her.
Yeah, but she also mentioned the initial struggles, right? The money worries, people maybe not seeing comedy as a real job.
Oh yeah, the classic starving artist phase.
Pretty much. It's a good reminder that chasing a passion, especially in the arts, often means facing those kinds of hurdles first.
But despite all that, the sheer satisfaction they both get from stand-up really comes through.
It does.
Ni finds it this powerful way to express her own life, her struggles, and Phuong Nam calls it his ikigai.
The Japanese concept, where your passion, profession, vocation all intersect.
Exactly. That sweet spot.
What's really compelling is that intrinsic reward they talk about. For Ni, it's voicing her experience. For Phuong Nam, it's this perfect alignment of what he loves and what he does.
Yeah.
It really drives home that while these creative paths can be tough, the personal fulfillment can be immense.
Let's talk about guiding principles for a sec. They both mentioned some interesting ways they think about their work. Phuong Nam brought up Chu Yin Tian Deng's principle. Tintet, quan ha, dom me. Money, relationships, passion.
Right. The idea being that when you choose a project or a job, it should ideally tick at least one of those boxes.
Yeah, it's a super practical way to evaluate things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Financial stability, meaningful connections, or genuine passion. If it hits one, maybe it's worth doing.
It's a clear framework, definitely.
Yeah.
Makes decision-making maybe a bit easier when you're weighing opportunities.
And Ni had this view of creative work as needing to be this consistent flow. She compared it to eating.
Also,
you can't just skip it because you don't feel inspired that day. She stressed Sai Gon Teu, creative discipline.
yes.
Engaging with the craft every day, basically, even when you're not feeling it.
That's such a crucial point. It pushes back against that romantic idea of creativity just striking like lightning.
Right.
It highlights the need for just putting in the time, consistent effort, practice. That's how you hone the skill and generate ideas, whether you feel motivated or not.
And Phuong Nam shared some great stories about the sheer unpredictability of the job, too.
Oh, yeah?
Like doing a gig for a tech conference about AI, a topic he admitted he knew almost nothing about.
Wow. Okay. That's tough.
Or having to go on stage right after someone shared this really emotional, tearful story. Talk about needing to read the room and adapt on the fly.
Definitely underscores the adaptability you need as a performer. And frankly, that skill's useful way beyond comedy.
True. They also touched on Vietnamese stand-up still being pretty new, kind of like rap was in its early days in Vietnam.
Yeah, still evolving, finding its voice.
It gives important context, right? Understanding that it's a scene that's still growing, still experimenting.
The people like Phuong Nam and Nhi are right there actively shaping it. It seemed like Nhi's focus was more on her personal artistic growth, whereas Phuong Nam seemed really invested in building the community around comedy, making stronger.
And he talked about the challenges of that too, like initially not having many places to perform, no real network.
Yeah, making it hard to refine your material when you don't get many chances to test it out.
Exactly. It really shows the dedication needed to build a creative field practically from scratch, and how important that community aspect is for growth.
Absolutely. Okay, finally, let's just briefly touch on their perspectives on love.
Right, the tarot reading hints in the interview were intriguing, different vibes for each of them.
Yeah, hinting at maybe different approaches to relationships. And then they talked about love languages.
Nay emphasized acts of service and quality time. You know, tangible ways of showing care, being present.
While Phuong Nam mentioned physical touch, quality time, and also what he called food language.
Food language, I like that. Sharing meals, that whole experience being important.
Yeah, as a way to connect and show affection. And he shared that really vulnerable story, didn't he?
About the tough gig, yeah. And finding comfort afterwards from his family and even a supportive fan.
It really highlighted the need for a strong support system, didn't it? To navigate the rough patches.
For sure. And it seemed to tie into his preference for deeper, meaningful connections rather than just superficial ones.
Yeah, wanting those authentic relationships where you feel genuinely seen and supported.
So bringing this all together, this deep dive into Phuong Nam and Nhi Voim, it's shown us so much more than just, jokes and stand-up routines.
Definitely. We've seen how their unique backgrounds, their personalities, really feed into their creative voices and how they approach their
Just
art.
thoughts on feedback, success, the whole creative process. Even Love These offer really valuable takeaways way beyond the stage.
Absolutely. It's a powerful look at resilience, authenticity, and, like you said, the importance of community when you're pursuing any kind of passion or career.
Totally. So on that note, maybe something for you listening to think about. What is it that really sparks your passion? What gives you that sense of purpose, your own ikigai? And maybe, inspired a little by Phuong Nam and Nhi Voim's dedication, what's one small, intentional step you could take, maybe even today, to cultivate more of those meaningful connections or explore your own creative side?